I think it's fair to say that 2024 is the tightest field in recent years, with many teams closing up on rivals that seemed out of reach just a few months ago. Haas have become a surprise contender in the midfield. McLaren have managed to repeat the unrepeatable with yet another gargantuan leap to really make Red Bull sweat, and Mercedes have rediscovered a semblance of yesteryear's glory, securing wins with both drivers in a year they had written off completely. However, where there are winners, there are also losers, as teams like Sauber and Alpine sink further and further away from their ambitions, but no fall from grace has been quite so baffling as Aston Martin. I mean, we've made our thoughts about the Silverstone Magpies and their struggles when it comes to bringing their own designs and upgrades pretty clear, but even we couldn't have seen their extreme plummet coming. Another man who couldn't have seen it coming is Fernando Alonso, who's now seeming to reconsider his commitments to the team following his early contract extension this year, likely prompted by the releasing of Carlos Sainz from Ferrari, as well as the greater silly season to come. Despite his early show of faith, he hasn't exactly been rewarded, and the word coming from the team has now given the two-time champion an awful lot to think about. Want to know why Aston Martin has fallen so far from their podium contention of last season? Mike Crack left nothing to the imagination, and one word stands out: pressure. And stick around, because an Aston Martin driver has revealed the timeline for the team to become competitive again, and let's just say that the revelation may be giving Alonso second thoughts in regards to his future at the team. If you cast your mind back to the early rounds of this year's championship, you'll recall Aston Martin still being somewhat in the mix, with Fernando Alonso qualifying in and around the Red Bulls, Ferraris and McLarens, and overall continuing where he left off at the end of the 2023 season. This wouldn't last, however, with the Imola weekend spelling doom for the remainder of Aston Martin's season. A failed upgrade package alone can set a team back substantially, the most recent example being Ferrari's walkback, costing them dearly in recent rounds, with the Scuderia only just showing signs of recovery. But for Aston Martin, the Imola package was especially rough. The upgrade was a massive gamble, with changes all across the car, including the floor and other major aero components being applied in the hopes that they could close back up on the steadily escaping pack ahead of them. This wasn't the case, however, and the team entered a free fall that has only recently been halted. Long and fast corners have been pinned as the main weak points, and the two final races before the summer break saw some upgrades that seem to remedy some of the core issues with the car. However, it seems that they have come far too late. Alonso came first in the race for best of the rest, still paling in comparison to the field ahead, with even the poorly performing Sergio Perez still being able to pit comfortably and challenge for fastest lap in the closing laps at Spa. In a recent interview, Mike Crack would say that 2023 wasn't truly representative of where the team was, and gave some colourful and flowery reasons for it, claiming it was flattering. What it really was the typical pattern we have seen by Aston, Racing Point and Force India, and that is the tried and tested method of, let's take as many elements off of the fastest car while still remaining legal, and then drop away as time goes on due to us not being capable of upgrading the car ourselves. It sounds harsh, but we saw the same with the pink Mercedes, and we have now seen it again with the green Bull of last season. The real interesting part of the interview came when the team principal gave an insight as to how the team owner Lawrence Stroll views the situation, with Crack first of all having this to say about the approach of the team. You need this and this and this. You've seen some of what we need in the future. That is one point, and I think there is a certain amount of reality or realism and also patience. But then when you go and you zoom in and you bring upgrades and they are not delivering the performance that they should, then the pressure is increasing, and rightly so. But then Crack would pivot in a way that team principals often steer clear of, as he would go on to say that the public perception that Aston Martin has fallen off is by no means wrong, while also commenting on the amount of pressure currently faced by the team from within. I think the perception from outside is not wrong or erroneous. The perception inside is huge pressure because the Imola upgrade doesn't deliver what you were expected to deliver, and trying to solve this as quick as possible is now the aim, and in that point, I understand that there is also less patience. Which, as we said, is a level of transparency not often seen by team principals. A lot of the time, even when they seem genuine, the pit bosses tend to give responses that are borderline legalese. But the fact that Crack has been so outspoken with the pressure within the team must mean one thing: there is no escaping it easily, and there is a long road of recovery ahead. Something confirmed by him when talking about how the team owner Lawrence Stroll is handling the downturn in form for the Silverstone team. Now, Lawrence has been in this business for long. He is very knowledgeable of how Formula 1 works. He also knows that if you have something that didn't work until you have something better, it takes time to make new parts, to make this, to make that. So I think it's a mix between the two. It is a situation we would not like to be in. We started the season in 5th, wanted to get closer, we had a plan to get closer to the top cars, and have not delivered that. And that brings us to the main point of this video. How must Fernando Alonso be feeling about all of this? I mean, the man's gone from mission 33 to mission finish P9 at least, in the space of a few months, and surely cannot be happy at all. When talking after the Belgian Grand Prix, Alonso laid his disappointment out, but insisted that the team will keep pushing forward to close the gap, saying, "I'm a little bit disappointed. We can't hide the fact that we are fighting today with Williams, AlphaTauri and Alpine, while last year we were looking maybe with the top 4 teams. Now they are out of reach and we are just defending from the guys behind. Even at the beginning of the year, in qualifying especially, we were always top 5, top 6 in the mix. So there's definitely a lot of work for us to do in the summer break and the second part of the year. We will not give up, but we need to work." But according to Aston Martin reserve driver Stoffel Vandoorne, it's not just a case of the performance coming in the second half of the year, with the reserve driver claiming that Alonso may have to wait well over a year before the team are capable of challenging at the front again. Vandoorne almost sounded like he pitied Alonso over the course of the Spa weekend, with him having this to say on the F1 Nation podcast. "With Fernando, we were in no man's land. He had a victory of the second group of teams, let's say. We were far behind the leaders, ahead of the remaining teams. Unfortunately, that is the reality that we're in at the moment." Which seems like a far more realistic assessment of Aston Martin's current position than Alonso's, where he's hoping the team can make strides in the second half of the season. While there are certainly plans in place that will more than likely improve Aston Martin in the future, they won't be usable, never mind optimized, until Fernando is 45 and his contract is coming to its closing stages. The improvements range from the team's new wind tunnel, which could be in operation as early as the end of this year, and then obviously the introduction of Honda as an in-house engine supplier. However, it isn't guaranteed that either of these things will be firing on all cylinders by the time Alonso's contract is up at the end of 2026. What's worse is we can't see Fernando tolerating another season and a half or even 2.5 seasons of malperformance by the team without going absolutely mental over the radio, in interviews or in private meetings. Fernando has high standards, which when paired with his pretty dismal off-track decision-making record, seeming to put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time consistently in regard to his drives ever since leaving Renault in 2007, makes for a messy combination and a lot of burnt bridges. Stoffel would even claim that next year will mainly be focused on the 2026 project, which is something that will likely be seen across the field, meaning that if Aston can't turn this ship around quickly, then improvements will be glacial until the new regulations, which paints Alonso's earlier comments in a far more desperate light. He wants this to work out because he's put all of his eggs in this one basket, and unless he takes a last-minute punt elsewhere, or rather at another team that would actually take him that he hasn't already annoyed, then Fernando may well have put the final nail in his career by signing up for a lame mule project more focused on preparing for life after he leaves.